Good afternoon and welcome to ArtSpeak Online, presented by the Ateneo Art Gallery, this time as part of Limbag Kamay Print Fair program. I am Boots Herrera, Director and Chief Curator of the Ateneo Art Gallery. Our session today is a sequel to the expanded printmaking panel we organized last May as part of the Art Fair talks. To continue with our aim to cover the landscape of printmaking as an art practice in the Southeast Asian region, we invited another respected printmaker, this time from Chiang Mai, Thailand, Mr. Kitikong Tilokwattanotai. Joining him are Juhari Said of Malaysia and our very own Ms. Ambie Abaño to continue this conversation. To introduce our three panelists, Kitikong Tilokwattanotai currently lives and works in Chiang Mai, Thailand. He works in print media, painting, mixed media, and collage. He earned a degree in BFA printmaking from the Chiang Mai University and an MFA in printmaking at the University of New South Wales, Arts and Design. Subsequently, after his studies, he began his teaching career as a printmaking lecturer at the Rajamangala University of Technology in Chiang Mai from 2004 to 2014. Kitikong is the founder and director of Chiang Mai Art on Paper, an invitational custom printing studio and gallery which collaborates with Thai as well as international artists in the production of print works. He has held solo exhibitions in Thailand, Germany, Japan, USA, and Australia, as well as being curated into many international group exhibitions. His works are held in several private and public collections, including Tisco Art Collection, Ratchamankar Hotel, University of New South Wales Arts and Design, and the Chiang Mai University. Our next panelist is Juhari Said, who graduated from the University Technology Mara in Malaysia, where he learned his trades. He was the main prize winner in the printmaking category of Salon Malaysia in 1991. He has received grants from the French government and Japan Foundation. He first visited the Philippines as the Malaysian representative at the ASEAN workshop, where he was first introduced to the growing community of printmakers then here in the Philippines. Juhari was appointed as a creative fellow in the University Science Malaysia in 2008. And a year after that, he was awarded the Anugerah Karyawan Seni by the Ministry of Unity, Culture, Arts, and Heritage. He has also participated in more than 100 group shows, where apart from working as an artist, is also involved in many initiatives like those organized by the Yayasan Raja Muda Selangor organization. He has also held several solo exhibitions, among them the Okir Show in 2003. And lastly, we have Ambie Abaño, who abandoned the practice of architecture in favor of being a visual artist. Her shift from painting to printmaking brought her to an exploration of the medium as she investigates portraiture in relation to both material and process. She has also added her explorations aside from portraiture. She has also been exploring different approaches in landscape printmaking. From two-dimensional prints, her experimental works led to the creation of portraits and figures in sculpture, mixed media works, and installations, always with an element of traditional printmaking processes. She has received grants from Alliance Française de Manille and the Asian Cultural Council, among others. She also served as president of the Printmakers Association of the Philippines, which is now known as the Association of Pinoy Printmakers. She has exhibited widely in the Philippines and across Asia and North America, and also in France. Ambie is currently a faculty member of the University of the Philippines College of Fine Arts. And so to continue with, to begin the session, we would like to invite Kitikong to begin his presentation. Thank you.
สวัสดีครับ Hi, how are you, everyone?
Hello.
Thank you for both Juhari and Ambie as well. So I'm so honored to have giving this chance and opportunity to talk about like Thailand printmaking. Let me getting started in sharing my presentation. So can everyone see it?
No, we can't see it yet. Would you like us to share your screen, your presentation instead?
Okay, sorry.
Oh, there. Okay,
All right.
there you go.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I get start first picture with the famous spot of Thai temple in Chiang Mai in northern part of Thailand, which is called Doi Suthep. So it's a symbol of like northern one. When you've been everywhere in Thailand, you would talk about this place and everyone would know it's mean about Chiang Mai. So let's begin about overview of Thailand printmaking. In Thailand, we don't really have like history of printmaking, but we have some kind of traditional thing that might be related, but not really. So the printmaking is brought up to Thailand from the Western from Italy. The first person who's starting up the university in Thailand, art university in Thailand, is not a Thai people. Actually, he is from Italy. And Silapakon University is the first start of the art school in Thailand. And then everyone graduated from the art school in Thailand. So they spreading to start teaching in northern part, western, south in Thailand. And one of the well-known center art school in northern part is Chiang Mai University, which is I was studying there before, and I graduated from Chiang Mai University. So I'm gonna go fast. I'm preparing a lot of slides for this, and lots of them it's just like the image. Printmaking is began to get introduced from the 60s, 1954. So they have one of the competition called the Thai National competition, which is first start they only have painting, and then they're adding on sculpture and printmaking. And after printmaking got introduced to people in Thailand, Thai people, they get to know, to see the printmaking, but most of the Thai people and art school, new generation after that, still not really understand. And once I getting study printmaking, and then I fell in love with printmaking. I went to study in Australia and brought that idea back to Chiang Mai to start up my own studio called like Chiang Mai Art on Paper Studio. And this is the overview of Cap Studio. So I start the studio from 2003 and begin to invite the artists come and work. Until 2007, 2003, I start my studio in the small apartment with the big press there for 3 years. And I found the building that I feel confidence to setting up that into this building in the Niman Hemin district. And then so on from there, 2007 till now, we still been using this building to be our studio. And sometimes we have some kind of like setting up, installing the work and showing the people coming in, but mostly we using this space as a studio, but welcome everyone to visit and try to, educate everyone about printmaking, because of a lot of people in Thailand still not really understanding printmaking yet. So basically, this is sort of the system about traditional system. So we invite the artists come to the studio. We getting a talk, meeting a few times until we know what they want, and then we providing a team, a staff team, as a master printer to creating the technique that can be fit into the artist, and we work together like collaboration prints, and we producing the edition out of it. And this is sort of like Udom Siri Anand. So he's one of the famous designer in Thailand. Most of his work is furniture design, and then kind of like well known as well. And he graduated from art school, so he know a lot about art as well. But the printmaking, he might not knowing deeply. So we're providing master printer to help him to do it. Kitikong, so he's one of my professor. And he doing like expressionist painting on canvas, and we invited him come and working on to like printmaking media as well. So one of the top movie director, and this is we're gonna talk about his work later on, because of he been starting work with us a couple of years ago, and it's quite interesting that we try to combine the idea of movie into the printmaking. Sitai Kantawang, one of the master in woodcut media, and when I was teaching in university, he's one of my famous artists and also like my boss in the university. So this is Sao Kong, one of like realistic painting in the same university that I teaching as well. So let's begin with like Surosit Sampong. He had done some etching before, but never done like multiple plate etching. So we tried to create his work onto like multiple plate etching and then producing the edition of his work on 2010. Lipikon Makel, also local artist. Sijai Kantawang, also like master woodcut printing. Ronakon. So Ronakon was a painter. So he paint expressionism with the content of like living life in Thailand and historical picture and thing. But mostly he painting like with the chunk thick oil painting black and white. So we can see like how that his work could be, have a conversation with printmaking. So we invited him and explore that his style of work into a etching process. And Chairat, he's doing lino cut. He one of like the dean of art school in Rachamankala University. Yuri Gensaku, he's a Bangkok-based artist, and she Bangkok-based artist, and she doing a lot of media. She doing mixed media, painting, and commercial stuff also on the advertising and thing. And we challenge us to doing really bright color etching on the multiple plate etching to expanding her work into a print media. And we did about 4 or 5 pieces of her work. Also my professor who doing like abstract painting, and he using like text and alphabet on one of his series called Blame It on the Weather 2013. Lak Mai Sali, he also one of my my close friends. So we study in the art school together, and his work is more like a new style of trendy of figurative pop character from 70, 80, 90 cartoon, and then he adapt that into his painting. Sometimes he put on the idea of like political in there, and economy into his concept of work. And then we get a chance to working with him many of prints in the last few years. And this is a theory of money. Also, this is kind of like it's hardly to understand if you're not Thai, but he play around with the word of tiger and tiger. So it's sort of like, you know, talking about like how we trading, how we getting the idea of like character become business in the society, society in Thailand. Also, that he's etching, so he can do like different media as well. And this is Methi Noichinda. So he's one of the famous musicians, and that he never done printmaking before, and we got him to do on Architecture Tripod 2011. And Christian, Chinese Australian who live in Thailand, and he is designer. And we asked him to like, you know, to do collaboration and challenge us how to making etching look similar and with kind of like blue and white porcelain. Also, Thanonchai Sonsivichai, he's one of the Thai advertising director, really famous one, and well known also. And this is kind of like accidentally met him. So he walked into the studio at first time, and I'm not on that side of commercial that he working. And he just introduced himself as like Thanonchai, and then he showed me all the sketch that he do. He got a thick book of, of sketching, and then I can see like how that he got a passion of drawing and beautiful portrait drawing that he draw on the whole book there. So I invite him straight away into the backside of the studio and trying some like quick drawing onto the plate. And this is the first result in 2009, which would mean first print of him that he never done printmaking before. And Palapon Mukdasanit, so one of the iconic street artists in Thailand, he really get to know from his work on the wall, and then he got a big chance this image on the bottom here. So he did that drawing onto exhibit into like a Bangkok Art Culture and Center, and got everyone attention onto that image. He using like ballpoint pen to draw it and spend like I think like a week or 2 weeks to get that one done. And then we met and we got a chance to work together into the first etching in his life, and would say so. I mean, like I feel bad that it's been a last etching with him as well because he passed away many years ago. International connection that we do, we got to print for do collaboration print with a lot of artists from Canada, Japan, America, Germany, Holland, Australia, Brazil, Indonesia, and so on. Many of the artists came, and you know, we got to know we using art to be an excuse to making a friends, a connection, and then you know everyone been friendly with all of the team here, and we enjoy to work and living with Prince, and many of them when they came they feel the same thing, and we kind of like we met our family in a different part of the world. And that's some picture of the process. We used to have lithography before the press, and then once we working too long, the stuff, the work is getting more and more and more. So now we donated the press to a young artist who starting up to doing lithography studio in the other side of the town to be used, and then she invite another artist or the artist come to work in the lithography process also. So hopefully her studio would be like better. In the past, we do also silk screen, and then expanding into another gallery called Jojo Kobe Gallery, which is do collaboration screen printing media only on the gallery. And this is some etching from Todd Sherman from Alaska in 2012. And Jason Fu, one of good friends from Australia, yeah, come and go on every year, once a year, to Cap Studio to doing a series of work. And after the pandemic had happened, so we haven't got to see each other that much. We just got on the phone call only, and he came up to, he called me and he planned maybe next year he would like to come and doing some more work with us. And Trevor Foster, one of our American friends from the state, USA. So he doing mezzotint with us, but the mezzotint, when he did the mezzotint, he took the plate back and then doing his own, and then bring it back to print with us in the studio. Dolores de Sasao still working with us. We just she's still in Chiang Mai and she's working with us recently. A new work is upcoming in next week. Shin Koyama, Japanese ceramicism artist. So met him up a couple of years ago, and he fell in love with Chiang Mai so much, and then we do a lot of print with him. So this is sort of part of his etching, the plate and the prints in 2018. So he one of like I feel like he really challenges, and he kind of like getting everything working in playful with his age, 74 years old now. But look back into his old work, he's kind of like a really traditional, serious. But once he getting older, he getting looser, and then on his work, and then he's just like playful with his work a lot. And I used to ask him like, why you move from like traditional serious Japanese to become like, you know, more thing, that difference, more younger in his work. Actually, he said like, yeah, we are a new generation, why we have to do as same as like the old generation. And that's perception is make me feel like, you know, I want to get a lot of artists to do something like more, even more advanced and more exciting on in our studio. Some monoprints from local Chiang Mai artists. And this is Kitikong also. This his painting and his monoprints. So every time artists came to our studio, we try to thinking of like, what's the technique, a tool, a medium that can fit in the character, in the personal character. Some people working fast, some people spending time a lot for one plate, and which one that we can help, we can providing to the artist to making that outcome, the best outcome, and then, you know, fit in his own way of working. And now I would go and talk. This is one of my old work from 2015. It's large etching, multiple page etching from 2015. And so we do some kind of big scale as well, but we have only one etching press, which is fit on the side of paper 70 by 100 centimeters. So when we're gonna do the bigger size, we always like thinking or designing of like a panel work instead of like doing a big sheet of like paper. However, like if we doing woodcut printing, we can do big scale because of we printing by hand. And we got providing a handmade paper from Aydin Paper Mill, which is right now changing the name to SP Paper. The founder named Supan, and he's one of the famous paper maker in Thailand, and providing a lot of paper to many artists in Thailand as well. And this is a sample of like a big scale of paper that we do, and that's a woodcut printing from me. And also this is woodcut printing from Sijai Kantawang. It's large scale, it's 240 centimeters, 120 centimeters, and 2 by 240 centimeters size. Amarin Kantawang, now he worked full-time as an artist and master printer in Cap Studio. And this is some sample of his etching work in 2020, recently one last year. Also Yuthana Sitikan, so one of our team, etching, multiple plate etching. He's one of like really specialized under doing solid aqua tinting. Juravit Satsit, so he's one of like a landscape etcher, have some sort of like deep feeling in there and telling or capturing the emotional of nature landscape of Chiang Mai. So one of our team, and Sudipong Wongson doing more like cartoonish or design of Thai traditional believing thing into a new style of work. Now I would going beyond than that. So in the past, I talking about traditional way of like printmaking, but I changing the idea of like this printing by our own as an artist in the studio, but working as a team and try to get a lot of artists and a lot of people in the different media come to doing some printmaking because we would like to introduce printmaking to many people to know more about printmaking and the question that a lot of visitors coming and asking for like can I see the original work would be gone so far. So but on the other hand, we have the thing that happened for quite long time ago that Thailand got expanding print into different media like print installation, print conceptual. We get start with Prawat Lau Chalerm. I think like if I'm not wrong, Prawat Lau Chalerm is the first start of print expanding. So he not stick into like the idea of like editing anymore, but he using a printmaking as tool to create, to support his content and then creating something like really amazing and really like attack people. Painting and drawing could not do something like that. So what Lau Chalerm, I'm sorry for like the photograph that I couldn't get the high resolution one. But on the left hand side, that was, I'm not sure what year that he gets started because of right now he living and working in New York. So he's the first start with the kinetic of work. So he using a tool and mechanic to making a mark onto the plate in terms of like concept of, you know, you do and then in Buddha theory saying like you do what you get, something like that. So I might not going deeply into like the concept or contents of the artist, but I would like to show the how that they expanding printmaking into many different media as well. And Prawat Lau Chalerm last 10 years ago, he came to visit Thailand and curating like 12 artists to the exhibition called Expanding Prints as well. So he tried to get everyone to expanding or creating something that different on the box of idea of printmaking. And I'm one of the artists that he got selected and doing that into the project also. And this is another Prawat Lau Chalerm metamorphosis on the theme of like Morandi in 1984, which is really really contemporary. Even like right now, I think like his idea is about like he stacked the copper plate onto the wall like that, and he making a scale bar around that, and the scale bar got a code number all around the edge here, and he have friends in the other place doing setting up everything is the same pattern on the wall, and he making a code of like, you know, like A1, and he making one of the special tool that you put the strong acid into the kind of like a sauce squishy bottle, and then he just draw it on the ruler here, and the other one doing the same thing. And then that sort of like you transfer the code number by hand to the other place else. And this is a result of the prints from the process. So this is the larging is huge, 136 millimeters. Yanowit Kunjat-Hong. So he's more like using processor monoprint to creating like or memorizing the pigment from the tree, from organic pigment from tree and fruit and thing, and creating the image or the emotional out of that, and then specific onto like a different pigment, different type of the tree and fruit. It's giving you a different oxidation and color onto his work, and his work is sort of like installation onto the wall and table on the table. Anya Chalerm Supakul, one of the, I think like she is the first artist who brought she got study in outside of Thailand and brought the idea of lithography or lithography technique to Silpakorn University and get started lithography since then. And this is her work on around 2000. So it's the idea of like, like the bread one that I'm not sure in your language is calling, but in Thai we call pa thong ko. Is some of the symbol of like a couple when you're doing two things together and sticking together all the time. And a lot of people using, I mean like eating this bread every morning. So the idea of that. And Kamila Chapasan, one of the top artists that been having some work in permanent collection in Guggenheim. So he graduated from printmaking and then move on into like conceptual and installation. And this is sort of like he using the idea of printing to making a footprints and work installation onto the wall. And some of that combining with etching as well. It's called Thai Conversation in 1991. So this is a handprint with the Thai alphabet, like A, B, C, D until the end of that. And then got some monkey that's I'm not really sure with the content because I haven't get time to talking with him about this yet. And this is one of the first woodcut printing that we had done at the beginning of Cap Studio with Camilla Chaperson in 2004. And he have installation woodcut printing and wood carving in the idea of like when he meditation and the philosophy that he got around the time that he kept meditation every day and he write down the record of the thought that coming up and start to doing the work. So the image is have some text that Thai people can be able to read, like like example for this one, we say with all of love, but no bias, something like that. And that's the famous piece one is called if you attend to make art is not as an art. That's what he has come up. And also recently, just a couple of weeks ago, he announcing with a Jojo Kobe in print onto like a digital world. So the exhibition of this all-screen printing is been setting up into like a digital world and presented online into many collectors last week. Tikuna Vishayanon, so one of the artists who teaching in Silpakorn University, and this is good sample of like how that using a concept of printmaking and the idea to fit in. And I love his work a lot about this one. The idea and the theme of his work is talking about like education and politics, capturing of the idea of like iconic of Thailand, the symbol of Thailand that international people recognize, and the history of part of politics until like right now. So on the school table that he selected, so he carving the detail and the story onto the table and get the audience come into the room that he installed and write down all the story on the background and get a piece of paper for anyone who can rubbing it and kept that one back home. Also, this is a series of like 2013, and he started to do it again in 2016, which is using like the idea of printmaking a stencil and spray pen to making like a poster about like politic stuff. And onto the t-shirt as well. Yupa Mahama, so she teaching at Chiang Mai University and one of like a artists who try to expanding printmaking really serious about, and she doing research and write down about the book of like Thailand expanding prints also into installation way and thing, and now she been using a lot of like blueprint to work the technique blueprint called I couldn't remember now. It's an old technique that been using for making a blue map in the past, or cyanotype, and then installing it. And Thongchai Yukantapornpong, one of my professor also, he doing woodcut printing on the handmade paper, like a small one. Most of his idea is all about like illumination and thing, and then he play around with like pattern of illumination, get installed, everything is on the wall. And sorry. So he doing woodcut installation. Would say like he's the first one who doing woodcut installation in Thailand, and that's some kind of like color version. And Pandit Pun Sombat, he's got to know really well in 1998 because of this is the new idea of like bring up the industrial process and the hand screen printing together. So he doing hand screen printing in like a part of like human face and brain and thing, and then he got the plastic industrial one to put it as a, like idea of product and doing like a installation work. This is one of the artists I been talking before, Pen Ek Ratanalyang. So he's one of the movie director actually, and he graduated from like art history before and turned himself into like movie director since then, and got really famous. All of Thai people know his name when he doing a movie. And once he came up to the studio, he just interested to got back into like etching because he used to study and learning some etching before, but not deeply. And he just wanna try to do it again. And suddenly like he got offer from like a Bangkok Biennale to have his work to show there as a film. And at the same time, we just like been discussed like, why don't we adapting printmaking to be part of that exhibition show also? And he just curious like how are we gonna do that? And I come up with the idea of like, nowadays we have like a QR code you can see on the corner here. And the QR code helping you to bring some object, that physical object into like digital world. It's sort of like the gate of like transfer that into. So in the digital world, you can adding like image, video, sound, everything into that. So this is a series that we got an outcome of a part of storyboard of a short film that he doing and exhibit in the Bangkok Biennale. So he selecting 12 scene of a short film, do a storyboard to produce it into like etching and installing around this kind of like a installing room. So when you're walking inside, it's a short film inside there, but this is a storyboard of the whole movie inside there. And once you project your mobile phone or any digital device into there, so you would link into like an explanation of that scene, each one. And some of the scene is got the actor and actress reading the script. Some of the scene is sort of like explanation of what the idea behind that. And I would talk some about my own work, which is like, I also love to experimental and expanding thing into a different, different media. And this is the idea that I'm using like firecracker to creating my own prints series. It's just talking about like in the childhood memories when I was young, and we have one of the festival called Loi Katong Festival. It is people lighting the firecracker all over the town in the past, but now it's kind of quite difficult. The police would be caught you if you're doing that. And firecracker in the past is reminding me all the time with this festival. And one day after I got met Prawat Lau Jalern curating, and getting everyone to think about how to doing printmaking out of the box. So I do research and I found this material, the white one material here is called plaswood in Thailand, but I'm not really know international terms of the name, international name of this material. But this material, it has something sensitive with heat. And I use this one and play like a childhood onto the plate process and capturing the mark of the heat and bring it back to the studio to print out of it. And this is the result of the whole thing. And they have one of the artists from America came up and he named this technique called pyroplexicography to me. And I think like that's kind of quite understandable. This is all the different mark of installation work. And I got a chance to do the bigger one, the bigger size. This is kind of like a 9 meter long. So I put on the plate together like that. And you can see like they have a string there and pulling up some kind of powder gun and then the different type of like firecracker. Actually, I have the video one, but I'm sorry I couldn't get it to present it this time. And then I lighting the fire, and this is a plate that after it got burned, and once it print is upside, it's opposite side, left and right. So you can see the start from there and become like a landscape of Chiang Mai, and then some part is got broken as at giving the sort of like a moon and sunlight moving around thing. And this is all of my presentation. Thank you so much for everyone listening.
Thank you, Kitikong. That was very interesting, amazing works.
Thank you.
You actually gave us an overview not only of printmaking, but I think contemporary art practice in Thailand, no? Considering how much you have been collaborating with different artists, and also the extent of experimentation you're doing together and individually. So I'm sure there will be very interesting questions later, but let us proceed first to Juhari, who would like to continue his presentation from last May, adding on to the discussion that we will be um, continuing today. No? So Juhari, so we'll share your presentation there.
Hello,
Is your mic
everyone.
on?
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, and thank you
Afternoon.
very
Thank
much.
you.
And I'm still honored because Ateneo University and a gallery invited me for the second time to present this topic, which I consider is very interesting for the development of printmaking in our region. And in my previous lectures, yeah, I have mentioned briefly some technique on conventional printmaking and how printmaking evolved in our region, especially in Indonesia, the Philippines, and in Malaysia. I hope with the presence of Mr. Kitikong from Chiang Mai, he will provide us some new knowledge, especially for me, and a lot of information on the development of printmaking in Thailand. And today, may I share some of my personal observations about some about historical facts, you know, and display and activities of this interesting medium around us. Yeah. Okay, next. And now, actually, I'm quite obsessed, you know, doing some my own personal research on some prehistoric drawing, painting, and hand stenciling around us, especially in Indonesia, Kalimantan, in Europe. Yeah, and here I would like to show some example. Yeah, and these are hand stenciling in the cave of Maros, Pangkep, Sulawesi, and believed to be 40,000 years old. And this prehistoric hand stenciling can be also found in Franco-Cantabria, Africa, and Australia. Yeah. And next. And from there, I discover more also on these religious factors. Yeah, religious factor means that, for example, when I've been working as an artist for almost 40 years, and I'm specialized into printmaking, especially woodcut printmaking. And basically, as a woodcut printmakers, we will study on the historical facts about how woodcut was developed in the beginning. And this is one of the very exciting example, yeah, the Diamond Sutra, whereby this Diamond Sutra was created by all these Buddhist monks. And actually, if you look into the Buddhism, where it was founded in the northern eastern India in the 6th centuries and spread, yeah, slowly spread to China, to Korea, Japan, and South Asia. Yeah, South Asia, namely Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Laos. Yeah, and by using woodcut and they printed it as a book, they began to spread Buddhism. Yeah, and at that time, it was spread freely and organic. Yeah, it was spread everywhere. Yeah. And next, yeah, wood. And this is the one of the example. The pictures can be found in the Diamond Sutra, And these pictures was created by using a woodblock. And this Diamond Sutra translated from the Sanskrit into Chinese, and then it was printed by using woodblock on paper in about AD 400. And this book is about Buddhism, teaching of Buddhism, about the wisdom cuts through all obstacles on the path of the practice. Then, next, yeah. And this is a katagami. Katagami actually originally from China and is spread to Japan and Korea. And this fabric stenciling was the fundamental techniques of screen printing. And when I met some students here, the younger generation, they make a lot of screen on t-shirt, on fabric, but they don't have some knowledge about where does this screen printing came from. And this is very interesting how during the old days, katagami has been used to transfer all the images onto the fabric and whatsoever into the culture of the Chinese, Korean, and the Japanese. Next. And this is another example, yeah, what we call the wooden block to make telepo. Telepo is telepo can be found in Malaysia, in the East Coast, and these are the wooden blocks, yeah? Wooden blocks, and these normally done by of the wood cover, and they have been used. Okay, next, yeah, we can see the. Okay, this telepo normally they use for fabric printing, and it's originated from the Malay archipelago, and it was spread via Lingga, Sulawesi, and reached the east coast of Malaysia, and it can be found easily in Terengganu and Kelantan. Yeah? Telepo is a woodblock printing using a printed glue to stick the gold paper, gold or silver powder onto the fabrics. And what is very exciting when I was study woodblock printing in Tokyo, that was 1994, I discovered that in ukiyo-e traditions, the silver powder or the paper also printed on paper by using the same techniques. Yeah, and what excites me is that because how do the our ancestors, yeah, from Japan and from the Malay archipelago, they have some interesting understandings, yeah, using the same technique, because at that time we don't have any proper communications or any like internet like nowadays, but they have some similarities. Okay, the next one. And these are the body painting, which is very popular nowadays in Europe. But actually, body painting, they started in Africa, and then somehow or other, when they paint their body, they also using stamping, and they are using a lot of natural like fruits or leaf, and they printed into their body to decorate their body. Okay, next. So by the time all the artists embraced the modern world, they subconsciously submit to the element of commercialism, sometimes so regimented and celebrity attitude that make us enjoy less in printmaking. And obviously, printmaking was so close and embedded in religion, socio-cultures, and expression in human civilization. It has proven to spread distinctively organic through ages. Therefore, printmaking should be expanding, and artists have to be self-reflex. It's possible printmaking will be shared the same destiny as languages such as Sanskrit, Latin, and Javanese gradually become extinct. Yeah. Okay, this is my very short observations how I believe that printmaking should be treated and should be developed in a very organic way if we want the printmaking to survive. And I think we should give more lectures and should give a lot of attention how printmaking should be, should be well developed in our region. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Juhari.
Yeah.
I think your brief presentation also underscored similarities with the Philippine experience, how religion also was a big factor in introducing the book culture. Doctrina Christiana was, if I'm not mistaken, the first book that was printed locally, no? Using, of course, woodblock print. So yes, thank you. And Ambie is here to join us. So we have a few questions in the Q&A box, but let me first begin the conversation. No, we for the information of everyone in the Zoom room and in the FB Live um, streaming, we actually had a brief meeting a week, was that a week ago, to discuss how we're going to approach this session. And at that time, we already had there was already a begin they already began a very interesting conversation, which I hope we can repeat today. No, so maybe Ambie, would you like to say a few words muna before we maybe in response to what Juhari and Kitikong has presented?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Kitikong. I mean, that was a very like a substantial presentation of what's going on in Thailand, and it's very interesting. So we see there like kind of like parallel of what's happened in the Philippines, and also what's happening, and also the differences. And thank you also, Johari. So this is like a continuation of the conversation from the last time that we did this kind. But the biggest question, not really the biggest question, but the inquiry is where is printmaking now? How is art being expressed through printmaking? And I think there is a kind of like a common trajectory from all different parts of the world, and like kind of like zeroing in Southeast Asia. And it's kind of like it's like affirming boots, like because it does empower when you are affirmed of it's not only us doing this,
right?
And we see the like all those that Kitikong has shown, what Juhari has shown the last time, what I showed. There's a parallel. So you feel there's a common voice or a common trajectory. So actually what came to my mind, and the discussion actually is about the last time that we were discussing what was expressed is if we go beyond the traditional practice of following strict rules and all that, is it still printmaking? And so there was like not really a debate, but expressing opinions, personal opinions. So I think we can take that question again, and
Okay.
maybe.
So maybe we can focus on the question of well, before going into the concept of traditional and experimental approaches to printmaking, I think one of the questions that we can look into is, what do you think are the factors or the conditions in your respective communities, no, contexts, that led to printmaking as it is now, like in the Philippines, in Malaysia, and in Thailand? Because Kitikong, we have the impression, I don't know if, I think Ambie and I actually discussed this separately after, before this session. And we felt like there is a very strong tradition of printmaking in Thailand. Although you did mention that it started in the 1950s, I think it would be similar to us, no? Contemporary
Is it
printmaking in the
1960?
Philippines.
Is it
Yes,
1960?
50s, 50s and 60s. I think you
Yeah,
cited
around that.
1954.
Yeah,
Yep.
again, yeah.
So it's post World War II. So more or less, we all have the same. It began at the same time, but it seems in Thailand there is a strong support, not only from the practitioners, but of course, hand in hand with that, with institution. Is there a strong institutional support? Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, actually, in terms of like printmaking in Thailand, we beginning separate to three things like painting, sculpture, and printmaking. But once you got back into the past, people getting start to studying painting a lot more, then become sculpture. People know about sculpture, but most of the young student to get into like university printmaking, they don't know either. Like I can tell example me when I was get entry into the university in the Faculty of Fine Arts Chiang Mai University in 1996. I got selected that I want to study painting, so I've been passed it to, and then I got into like painting major. But printmaking got some few people who got select to study printmaking. But on the first year, everyone have to study called art fundamental subject, and everyone have to try on the different media like sculpture, painting, printmaking, and everything. And once I got introduced into printmaking at first place, I'm just like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. And I fell in love with it. And since then, I went to the administration at the school and asking them to like changing my major into like printmaking. And from there until now, I still struggling in printmaking, not getting out at all. And for the strong support, printmaking is become more and more recently about I think not many years ago that brought into like more collectors understanding that museum gallery understand printmaking more. But for the commercial line, gallery is still not supporting printmaking much because of like there's still conflict about like you holding up the edition.
Okay,
You have
still the
whole
same
edition. Yeah,
question.
that has been a big problem, and I have been giving a talk about this idea in Australia before, and the answer is we're not just studying printmaking, we're not just studying a technique, but we need to studying ethic as well. So if you know the rule, you make a commercial with the gallery, you should be like, strong belief and, trusting each other to dealing with business. I'm talking on the business way like that. But it's related to like once if the printmaker artist got support, it's kind of making a printmaker is getting bigger. People would be like get support by gallery more, and a lot of people would be back focused on the printmaking a lot more.
I think the situation is the same.
Yeah, everywhere in the world.
Malaysia, yep.
Everywhere the same in Malaysia, because most of the art students that was trained as a printmaker, and they are majoring in printmaker for 3 years. And when they complete their study in Malaysia, they will turn into painting because painting is more lucrative. The prices and then the exposure, even the size will be very, very impressive compared to printmaking. Printmaking, we can only produce very small, unless you make a huge print. And also, I think one of the reasons is that there are not many publishing house in Southeast Asia region, in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Philippines. And when we don't have many publishing house, painter or sculptor or any artist, for example, when you show the video just now, how you invited filmmaker, how you invited musician coming to your studio, making prints. And when you provide master printer for them, I'm very, very sure they are so happy because there are some people who is existing, these creative people. So I would like to suggest that if we wanted to develop a bigger awareness among the public, especially the collectors or the art enthusiasts, artists got to started to build their studio that open to the public, and we should started to build up a publishing house. And recently in Kuala Lumpur, we have one group of younger artists, and they started the publishing house. The studio is open to the public. You know, they have classes. There is a Cetak 12 in Kuala Lumpur. And I'm very, very proud of them because these are the things I think should be developed. And also another factor, printmaking should be allowed to develop in a very organic way. Just like the Buddhist monk, when the Buddhist monk, they make woodcut print, they don't have numbering, they don't have artist proof, they don't have the editions there. They just make the Buddhist book, and the Buddhist book spread all over the world, and also like the katagami, and also like all kind of printmaking element in Africa. And printmaking, I believe, should be enjoyed by everyone, and I think the commercialism or the element of commercialism shouldn't dictate how we should work in our creative studios. That's what I believe.
Yeah, but the cost, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
the cost of education of printmaking is kind of quite high. Everyone understanding that you need to provide a press, which is cost a lot. You need to provide a blanket, good blanket to making a quality of prints. You have to preparing like a plate, paper, and then you want to get a good quality of prints. You have to got a good paper as well, expensive paper as well, and then who understanding the whole process, because it costs safety also. If get anyone to doing their own printing, sometimes it might be dangerous if they don't understand the whole process and machine as well, because of some like etching, you have to get concerned with like acid, which is sometimes are we using like nitric acid, which is really hard and could cause big accident about that too. Turpentine, thinner, heat and thing sort of. It's not that really easy, but for me, for my opinions, I think like we can get started from like together as a group and supporting, and then guiding the people into the good direction way. Sometimes people come and asking the question, you have to be patient and explaining them and educate them. But some printer they don't feel that. They just like get annoying with the same question again and again and again. I've been repeating that for like whole of my life, and then I still happy to explain. Once people like appreciate that, and then they can see how the printmaking is begin and outcome. Once they appreciate it, just taking one time, and then they would be very in love with that.
Yeah, Ambie?
Yeah, I can relate with both Juhari and Kitikong. I understand their points of view. Well, first with Kitikong, yes, true. Is you have to explain to people what is printmaking all about, and it's not so much the patience, it's more of like a passion. Whenever somebody asks, you're happy that they ask, because that means they take interest. And I understand also the difficulty of the logistics side, the marketing side, because when it comes to art market, there can be hesitations when it comes to printmaking, because it's work on paper. People think that it's not easy to take care of paper. It will not last long. It's not an original. All these things, it still happens. But recently in the Philippines, I would, we can observe that there's an increase, quite very
Appreciation.
positive increase in appreciation, interest. And so we see now, like with this project of Limbag Kamay, you can see that there are more young people who are interested in making even the simplest, forms of printmaking. They might not be adept when it comes to etchings, but this is a beginning, Kitikong. I mean, I understand you when you say, like education, training, when it comes to etchings and the more sophisticated forms of printmaking. But this is a beginning because once the interest is there, it can grow. And I'm actually excited. And also the fact that, like what we're doing now, we're online, people are watching, and we have 51 viewers, and they're here because they're curious, they're interested. So yeah, I think we all agree that there should be a kind of like support among us, get together and talk more and compare notes and celebrate together, because like printmaking is like an adventure. You don't know what's gonna happen next, like anything else. And so yeah, another thing that came to me as an like an image came to me when we were talking about is this printmaking, is that not printmaking, or how to draw the line between traditional and contemporary. But it's not to say that what's being done in the traditional is not contemporary. Certainly it is contemporary, but all this different direction that it's branching out into, like how do we call it, or how do we name it? But an image came to me. It's an image of a tree. Everything, all that's happening in printmaking, we are rooted in the same root. It's like one tree, and then it slowly branches out. It's like the lineage. We all came from the same beginning, like of when Juhari told about the stenciling of the hand, that would be our lineage. It all came from there, and then it started to branch out to make this beautiful tree that has many, many branches. And sometimes even when the fruit falls, maybe another seed sprouts, and then it's not printmaking anymore, but it came from printmaking. So it's just amazing.
You're very philosophical this time.
On a Sunday afternoon.
I think I'm inspired. Like it's inspiring to have 51 viewers now, and so we want to, as much as possible, to like relate to them what is the experience of the printmaker. So yeah.
Sige, let me just continue with the discussion with this question. For each of you, what brought you to expand your practice of printmaking? Individually, what led you to start thinking out of the box, out of the press, out of the plate, or maybe in multiples? Kitikong, you did that multi-panel etching, which to produce a mural. So, in your personal experiences, can you share what led you to that direction, to that trajectory?
Thank you. That's a real good question, though, for this topic. Actually, like I would saying back into when I studied in Australia, which is Michael Kempson, one of my lecturer and teacher, also mentor for me to starting up everything, and then fell in love a lot about printmaking. And he always like saying to me, like, first thing you have to know exactly what printmaking is, and you go understand the whole angle of printmaking, then you can refine them, you can pick it up, you can take this part of it to supporting your idea and concept. And once you got the concept or the idea of want to experiment and thing, and you would know like how you're going to use a printmaking part of that. And the idea of like the firecracker prints that I doing is sort of like I have to take only one key of that idea to find the material that could sensitive the heat, to capturing the mark that I want to keep that mark as a memory. So I just experimental with only one thing, because of the rest of that I do understand already, like the whole process can be bring it to make an outcome. And just that, so I doing that. And then also like, how can I, you know, see thing and experimental with the other artists like Printmaker Wattanaryang, the movie director guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
because
was
of
an interesting project actually.
yeah,
I mean, the
because
way
of
you collaborated with him.
everything is crossover now.
Mm-mm.
I still got an idea would like to work with like musician. I still got an idea would like to work with like the farmer. I still got an idea would like to, you know, do collaboration with scientific, dentist, doctor. I think like everything is just life, you know, it's life. And then you're thinking like a printmaking as a tool to use them to supporting the strong concept and idea to make it even like stronger, and that would be success for that.
Yeah, so it's really the fresh content that pushes you,
Yeah.
no? Before I go to Juhari and Ambie, I just want to comment that during your slide presentation, you included Yanawit, the artist who uses organic pigments. I actually met him years ago, and at that time, he was working closely with a chemist from Silpacorn University. I forget the name of the chemist, but they were together developing the possibility of producing locally produced pigments, no,
Oh, the
artist
pigment.
pigments.
And
Was
now
that successful?
yeah,
Were they able?
it's been on
Oh,
the
okay.
market now. Yeah,
That's good to
everywhere.
know.
They
It's good
got
to know.
oil-based and acrylic. Yeah,
Because
on
I
the
remember, it would walk around. I was still with UP Diliman, and we
they
were
have
walking
like
around the campus.
expanding into one section of like only
Oh,
traditional color of Thai paint.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So I would love to know more about that. Juhari, would you like to continue the discussion? What led you to that, to be more expansive in your process?
Be more dynamic. Be more dynamic.
Yes, yes.
More dynamic.
No, Kitikong, actually, when you make the presentation and you mentioned the name, Prawat. Actually, Prawat came to my studio in 2007.
Oh, you met Prawat, yeah.
This is the like a small leaflet. He gave it to me in 2007.
I think like you mentioned about your name before.
I didn't know that he's a big name in Thailand.
He's a legend. He's a legend.
He's a legend, yeah. And when I mentioned his name to some of the artists in Thailand, Tawon, Tawon Kudowit, and Kudowit knows Prawat very well. Yeah,
they are graduated from the same school. I think Prawat.
Yeah. So what is interesting, I learned in 2007 from Prawat is that he came to Malaysia and visit my studio, and he told me that he is organizing printmaking expanded workshops everywhere in Australia, in New Zealand. He traveled like a bird, like a bird, and he invited me to New Zealand for the first expanded printmaking workshops. But at that time, I was quite busy in Malaysia and I couldn't attend the workshop in New Zealand. And slowly I discovered that Prawat actually, he created a kind of dynamic group that focused on the expanded printmaking. And I was so inspired by him. And later in 2010, I started a project of the residencies in my studio. Yeah, because at least we should work together in a place, and then we should share some common ideas, common destinations about what we are going to do. And I think this is a very healthy kind of activities for the artists in Southeast Asia region, and maybe we can expand the idea from artists, from Korea, from Japan, or from whatever, just like what you did in the studio. And I always believe that organizing a residency project is a very positive attitude and a very positive way to develop printmaking, because we cannot work alone in our studio all the time, and no man is an island. Yeah, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
And you are, Juhari, you did mention that you're organizing a residency program eventually, no? When we
Yeah.
get to travel
Mhm.
easier, no? Or at least in the region. Yeah, Ambie, would you like to say something about that question in relation to that question?
Yeah, but before I answer that, I also want to say that I met Prawai. Kitikong,
Now I'm
in New
intrigued.
York.
I want to meet
Yeah,
him.
maybe
these are
next
common
time you
now.
have to invite
Yeah, it's
Prawai.
very, very,
Yes.
very interesting.
I was invited to his house in New York. I remember
Yeah.
that very well. And he
So
served us
his house is on
noodles.
the Fifth Avenue.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, not Fifth Avenue. I forget now, but yeah, close to Fifth Avenue on the
Yeah.
second floor. And
Right,
very
right.
simple man. And then he talks about very passionate about printmaking. And
Exactly.
I got the same pamphlet, Johari.
Yeah? This
The
also.
ring bind. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, and
Me
he
too.
would talk about this dream of getting our printmakers together.
this
And
is
yeah,
what,
exactly.
yeah?
Right. I have it too.
So
There's
next
a
time, let's invite
commonality.
him, huh?
There's a commonality. It only
Actually,
shows
he's
we
the
come
one
from
that should get a talk with.
Mm.
He's
Actually,
a
That's
legend.
expanded printmaking 3.
Right.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
We'll work on
expanded
that.
printmaker. Anyway, about the question, I was when I first was introduced to printmaking I was in high school, and I didn't like it. I said this is the most boring thing. I learned colograph because I was in a workshop. And then later, Benji Cabrera invited me to PAP, and I was so fascinated by the etchings and mezzotins of Phil de la Cruz, the woodcuts of Pandy, and I said, I want to be a master etcher. But then when I saw Pandy's work in woodcut, and then I said, okay, I tried the woodcut, and then I saw the possibilities in the woodcut, because the wood is endless, you can put them together, you can create many things. And I started to experiment, and the more that I experimented, the more possibilities I saw. And I was thinking to myself, do I go this way? Do I go that way? Why not both? But then for the most part, I'm going towards a direction of exploring, ambitious possibilities. And so it's because, when the call is there, you visualize what can be done. You have the basic techniques and the skills. Yeah, you can do anything but give yourself to that invitation. So, but at my age now, I still want to go back to etching again. So I think it depends really on what calls you. So that's what it is for me.
Exactly. Yeah. I think like they have many questions.
Yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
read some of them. Let me just go to, I'm not going to read them chronologically, maybe start with something more general and then focus on
Okay. All right.
specific questions. So let's go to the question sent via FB Live from Noel Soler Quizon. Kitikong, I think, no, sorry, Juhari.
Yeah.
You know him. This is Nuki.
Yeah, he's my
No?
long lost brother.
Yes. I haven't seen him for a while too. So, hi, Nuki. So, his question, where history and contemporary art practice converge through printmaking, how do you see a continuum of the popular medium in a post-pandemic scenario? Are there new trajectories in terms of medium, message, and motivation? Any thoughts on this?
Like say again,
Post-pandemic, how do
post-pandemic.
you see the continuum of the popular medium in a post-pandemic scenario?
To me, Noel. Sorry. How are you, Noel? Good afternoon, Noel. Next time when I come to Manila, I'm going to visit the Women University to see you.
PWU, yes.
Yeah, but actually, as an artist who live in Orchard, and I spend my time walking around the orchard and doing my work, I don't really affected with the pandemic. Yeah, to be frank, yeah, because I think as an artist, we always work and we works every day in our studios. And what is happening outside us couldn't really bother us, you know. And I think life is as usual, and even sometimes better because I didn't have to go to town anymore. I don't have to meet um, a lot of people in town, and I really focusing on my work in my studio. Yeah, it doesn't really affect anything.
But in terms of material, for example, was that um, did the pandemic lead you to consider new processes, new mediums to explore or experiment with?
Because my studio is surrounded with nature, and normally
Mm-hmm.
I'm using a lot of natural resources
Mm-hmm.
around my studios. Yeah, and because I was trained as a woodcut printmaker, and I don't need to buy copper plate. I don't need to buy the acid. Yeah, as mentioned by Kitikong. Yeah,
Right.
I don't need the acid. I do need the paper. You know, a special paper, and actually, this is what I fully understood that uh, the best way to work is the organic way, because you celebrate what you have around you,
Mm.
and then from what you have around you, you tend to jump into the next level. I think that is very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ambie, would you like to
Mm,
chime in?
what I think is, it's hard to say what's gonna happen, but I'm excited to see what's gonna happen as a response from our experience of the pandemic. We just go with the flow. Let's see what happens. But what I'm noticing now is that because the younger people are more stuck in their homes, they can get bored, and so they're trying new things. And there are some who would try printmaking, at least the relief printmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the availability of internet, there's all that you can the how to do this, how to do that, and the materials are quite simple and available. It can be delivered to your home. So I think it's the interest,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know what's going to happen from there, but that's the beginning.
Yeah. Kitikon, any thoughts on this question?
For me, for my system of like custom prints is affect a lot because of
Mm-hmm.
a lot of artists from international they cancel to
Mm.
come, and
Mm-hmm.
also like we've been passed to a quarantine the whole studio for 14 days already last April because of part of our member got COVID, which is not his fault, but
Mm.
but everyone had to quarantine themselves to be safe, and then we back on, and
Right.
then we more secure. We put alcohol gel every corner of the building and wear the mask all the time. But I think rather than that, it's just like you have to move on. So
Mm.
anything it happened, it's happened. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is passionate is not going to be stopped by pandemic anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this print fair, contemporary print fair, Limbag Kamay, started if planning started in the middle of the pandemic. Um, Ambi, would you know? Because I remember they asked me about it like a few months ago only, but I wonder if the situation that we're all locked down led them to further encourage them to organize this, because this is already
Yeah.
something. It's a new way of promoting printmaking.
Yeah, I think initially, I mean, there was an initiative, or at least the idea even before the pandemic, but maybe they also took advantage of this time
Mm-hmm.
to take advantage of people being home and
Mm-hmm.
available to be present in and participate in all the different talks, and
And using
yeah,
online
using
platforms,
online
no?
platforms because it works anyway. I mean, even
Yeah.
exhibitions, it works anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me go to the first question. Actually, comes from Alejandro Robert. I'm not sure if this is Robert Alejandro, the other way around. Can someone this is for Kitikong actually. How can someone come and visit and play? Because you mentioned about playing, no, earlier in your presentation. Visit and play in your workshop. Is there a program? And in relation to that, Elmer Berlongan, you started typing in your answer, Kitikong, but his question is, I also want to set up a print studio in Zambales, where he is now. He actually took on printmaking more actively now. Of course, he's more known as a painter. Do you determine the number of editions for artists you interact with? If so, how many editions? So this is more how this CAP operate, no?
Okay. So that's good question for me to answer. Is it like Cap Studio is start from like not thinking of the business. We started from like passionate, and then somehow once you running the studio, a lot of that it costs to spending, and then we have to think of like how to operate them fairly for the artist, for the studio, for
Right.
the staff, and we still need to buy food anyway. We end up with like the whole system of Cap Studio. We kind of making a friend with the artist first, or any artist be interested, or any artist come to visit. We get to know each other for a little while, and then we start to approach or asking like, are you available to work, or we would love to do some collaboration work with you, and then we can start that casually, not formally. And once they come, they always come and doing the play. We providing a master printer, we providing equipment for them to work, but anyway is stuck on the traditional way, which is like we have to do the edition of it, because that's going to be spending the cost together.
Right.
So I used to do it like 15 prints out of the edition, 30 prints out of the edition, 45 prints out of the edition, 60. But end up with like 30 is a good number for running the small studio like what I have, because half of them, 15, the
goes to the artist.
the artist do it, and 15 we got it to manage it in our studio, and 15 that we have, we providing 10 of them, finding a sponsorship to supporting us a year sponsor. So they pay us year sponsor, and they got one prints out of the whole edition they produced in 1 year back into them in the end of the year. So we would
It's
be
actually an interesting system.
yeah. And then we try to I got telling or guide some studio that been asking as well to be able to use this process. If you have someone who can be able to support, and then collector that understanding printmaking, but mostly this is a good thing because of the sponsor have all the work in the package. And what they're doing, some people they resell it, because we come up with all the information of CV, price of the work, or photograph and everything, so they can set up their own studio from that whole box here. And
so
also
it's like a folio.
And also some people who was a collector, I've been asking them like why they have it many years, so it's a lot of them. And the collector said like they select some that they love it, and then the rest of that, it doesn't mean like they don't love, but they love less, so they do it giving
give it as a gift,
for like New Year gift and
right.
also. So
Ambie, I think that's a good approach. I mean,
so I hope like
marketing approach.
that might be answering the question.
It's also a business model, but it's I think what's important is it like what Juhari said, it's quite organic, no? How starting your working relations with an artist, it's not like they just tell you this is what I want. No, it's really a collaboration.
Like that. Yeah, that's right.
And I love what you said about pitching in on what technique would work best with his or her aesthetic, no?
Yeah.
Especially for other visual artists working in other medium.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
You're right.
Okay. So, Juhari, this is a comment for you from Yi Ki Lim. So he's very impressed with the presentation on the Diamond Sutra
Yeah.
printmaking. So I think this discussions have further enriched the historical context, no, of printmaking as an art form, even before it was formally introduced to us by Europeans, by Westerners. No, in our case, it was the Spanish who introduced it. I'm not. I hope I have my art history right, but at um, the 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 main function of early prints was mainly through for prayer books to
Yeah.
spread
Prayer book.
Christianity. So similar to
Because
Buddhism.
at that time you don't have factory to make books, to print all those books. And the
Mm-hmm.
Buddhist monk, they work together, and they printed the Buddhist book to spread the idea on Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something very exciting because it slowly it develops and develops until Buddhism spread, yeah, until uh, uh, reaching Kitikong in Thailand. Yeah, this is something very, very interesting. And I always believe that among printmaker, we should organize more projects, and we should organize more discussion, and maybe we can invite among printmakers to visit, my studio, or going to Philippines, going to Chiang Mai, so that we can share some common idea how we can spread the idea of printmaking. And I think this is the only way. This is the
Mm-hmm.
only way.
Yeah. Okay, a question from Mars Aglipay. Does your printmaking community also experience challenges in sourcing materials? And are there communal print studios that exist within the community? By communal meaning, I think the AP workshop is more of a communal. Would you
Yeah, it's a
consider that as
common. Yeah,
um,
definitely.
would CAP be considered as a communal, or it's really a few of you owns it, or you own it and then you manage it, and but it's open to other artists?
It's more privately.
Okay,
Like, yeah,
so
so
mhm,
a lot of people misunderstand. They come and then they
mhm.
ask me to rent the space. They want to use the space and things, but
Right. Mhm,
yeah, so it's more like a privately. We kind of control them all.
mhm.
Yeah,
So
but
can you say something or reply to the question about sourcing materials? Are there challenges?
yeah, actually, like
Um,
in Cap Studio, we kind of like have once a month or sometimes once or 2 months to doing sort of like I call the project of art lab, etching lab or printing lab,
mhm,
like experimental in a different thing. So
mm,
all the team can think of something which is possible to be used and thing, and then we discuss and we try to print it out and
mhm,
see the result, and then developing that
mhm.
again. So actually, kind of like if you are a drawing artist, you would trying some new brand of pencil or using
Right.
charcoal,
Mhm,
burning a wood to use and things like that.
mm. So you have those um like projects to explore new possible new materials.
Often,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, once a month, we just like
And
got one day and doing that.
was your use of the firecracker a result of that as well?
In Thai, we
Not.
call
Oh,
plus
but
wood. It's sort of like combination of like plastic and wood using for
ah,
interior design.
okay, plastic
It's
and
got
wood.
1 millimeter to like 10
Mm-hmm.
millimeter thick, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's come up with a big piece like 240 by 120, and you can use
Mm.
like a knife to cut it off. You can use it as a lino cut as well, lino
Okay.
as well. Yeah, so you can use a ballpoint pen to draw on top of that with the
Wow.
pressure, and then you ink up, and then you got like a ball pen line.
Yeah, maybe Ambie, you can take note of that.
I can send you the sample, and
We'll get back
Yeah.
to you, Kitikong, on that.
Okay, let's go to question from Gerardo Jeho. So wonderful talk, thank you. Is size so important for printmaking to be more popular? What do you think of the opinion that printmaking is an intimate medium like watercolor, so small is good? I think we're beyond that already. No, not. I mean, size for us, for in terms of your practice, no, is
I think it's
oh,
matter. I think it's
sorry.
matter. I think it's matter. The size of
Mhm.
like in
Size
terms,
is always matter. Yeah.
yeah,
Size is always matter because psychologically, we human, we are more impressed with something big, something tall, something masculine. Yeah, that is the human nature. And when we look into the history of printmaking in America, even in the 70s, how they started, the booming of the printmaking in America in the 70s, and they go to bigger sizes,
Yeah.
and they go for, even the paper is small, they will make prints and they will
And put it
expand
together.
together.
Mhm.
And there are many artists which I consider, even during the art competitions, painting, they normally come with a big size, and suddenly a printmaker coming with a small size, and he wanted to compete with the big painting. It's quite impossible in a way. It's quite impossible.
Yes,
I want to
Ambie.
react to that. I want to react to that. There's also the other side, like a big work can be, arresting and impressive, and, it
That's
will
so
really call your
interesting.
attention. But at the same time, small works can be very intimate. It brings you inside, it's very personal, and you can just be looking at it in a more, contemplative way or something like. So there is a power in big, there's also
Yeah.
power in small, and the power can be equal. It really depends on the content of the work.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, small is not necessarily just that, no good, but it will depend on how you the concept of what you're trying to communicate, no?
yeah, but I
Okay,
think
yes, go ahead.
sorry, can I have
Yes,
some word?
please.
Yeah, big and small size, I think like it matter. It matter, but it matter more if you combining with like space, some distance to see it. So if you got a big space, you got bigger work to fit in, you would be like okay with that. But some smaller size might not be fit in the bigger size sometimes. Yeah, and it's sorry, Abby.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah,
All right.
and I think
I
like
just want to add that there's an international mini print competition. There's not just one. And so
exactly.
the smaller, the
Yeah.
better. Like if you create an etching or mesotint 2 by 2 inches,
And
you
also
can
in
have the whole entire cosmos in that.
and also in terms of like energy, I'm sure like Juhari was
Yep.
right, like bigger one would be energy. But the thing is about in terms of like economy, the smaller one would be good for like less budget, keep you like starting up and thing also, and also
Small
like
houses, yeah. Small houses.
yeah,
Small
smaller
houses.
space, smaller house, and also like in terms of like delivering shipping also, like the bigger side would be harder for the smaller side and easy got damage as well. So it depend on like what angle we looking for that question.
I wanted to share you some of my experience when I was in Japan, because there was a museum. Yeah, there was a museum that wanted to collect my work as their permanent collections, and I give the range of my works. And usually, Ambie knows very well. I produce a very big woodcut on canvas. Yeah, and then there are small woodcuts, A4 size. and I make I show them all my works, yeah, the range of my work. And the museum told me that the small sizes they refuse to collect.
Mm.
They only wanted to collect the big one because according to them, they have big walls, they have high ceiling, and the small print is not suitable to be the permanent collections of the museum, you know.
It depends on the space then.
Yeah, it's depend on space. Maybe because there is a public museum. Yeah. If I propose to the private museum in Japan, because private museum in Japan is so small, yeah, and they have the size of a bungalow, yeah, and I think the small size print is suitable to be their permanent collection.
I went one of the exhibition, Rembrandt exhibition one that was happening in Bangkok before, and then it's still stuck on my head. It's really powerful. They are really tiny one, like a
the
stem
Rembrandt.
size, and then they
Yep.
give you like the what they call
Magnifying
Magnifying glass. Yeah.
magnifying glasses, and then you're just going around with
I
that.
know.
And it's like that's another thing. Like size matter, but depend on what the
It's
contents.
really
of the one.
relative. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's very
really
relative in
relative.
a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Some more questions or comments. Again from Elmer Juhari, my brother. So you have a lot of
Oh yeah, Elma,
lost
how are you? Long
brothers
lost.
in the Philippines, no? Long lost brothers. So great presentation. Do you think we can involve the community and artisans to expand their practice to art? Elmer, I'm not sure what you meant by community, or are you? This is should this be the community
The
of
community of
artisans? No.
extended printmaking, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he meant that expanded community. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to be good. Yeah. Normally, when I give lectures or workshops, I always give an analogy. Yeah, I always give an analogy to make the public easier to understand. Yeah. For example, that I think most of us, when we go through the secondary school, we learn physics, normal physics.
Mm-hmm.
But when we go to the university and we specialize into a science subject, sometimes we learn and we come across about quantum physics. Yeah, we go through what is quantum physics, and to me, that not all students that learn physics can understand what is quantum physics.
Yeah.
And that is what expanded printmaking about. It's a very simple analogy. So I think to understand about expanded printmaking, you need to understand the fundamental of printmaking. You have to make woodcut, you have to make etching, you have to make seed screen, you have to make lino cuts. And then you started to question why we call them as a print. And to me, we call them as a print because we have the block and we have the additions. And the blocks and the additions always identify what is conventional printmaking. And expanded printmaking is only focusing on those small elements, and that small element, they magnify into something big. Yeah. And this is what I call the expanded.
Yeah.
We always magnify something very small in printmaking, the element of printmaking, and then we magnify them into something big, something prominent. Yeah.
And sometimes performative, no? In terms of process and even the way it's exhibited, no? Let me read another comment question for Juhari from Yuki Lim. I'm curious why you chose a career as an artist. I think he or she's your ex-classmate from primary school. Because we grew up in the largest tin mining and tin field along the Siamese-Malayan Peninsula tin belt. So the question is, why did you choose a career as an artist? Maybe I can ask, we can ask all three of you to answer that question as well. No?
Can you please say again, Abu?
Why did you choose a career as an artist? Why did you want to become
Oh,
an
why should
artist?
I choose
I
a
think this is
career?
something very basic. It's like a Miss Universe question.
This is
Sorry.
very interesting
Mhm.
things, yeah, to discuss because uh, basically you when you choose a career because you know yourself very well.
Mm.
Yeah, you know yourself very well because whatever you choose in life, you cannot pretend you like it because it will never permanent in yourself. So to be an artist is something that you know yourself very well.
Mhm.
And I know myself very well that, you know, I wouldn't want to be an engineer because I hate calculations. Yeah, I hate calculations. So I don't think I wanted to be an engineer. So, becoming an artist is about, you know, how you feel that you have uh, an imaginations. And of course, having imaginations, even my engineers, they have imaginations. But engineers that have the imagination, they have gone to the next level. And I feel that, you know, not everyone have the kind of imaginations. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I started I wanted to become an artist when I was very, very young as 8 years old. Yeah.
Mm.
And I have to go through hardship, and I have to, you know, convince especially our parents, yeah, because I think everywhere around the world, many parents refuse to accept the child if they wanted to be an artist. Yeah, I think Kitikong also the same, Ambie also the same. Yeah.
Maybe
Sorry.
quick question answers from Ambi and Kitikong. You
Um,
remember when you decided to become an artist early in
Abby,
your life?
all right. Sometime when I was already taking up architecture, actually, I
Yeah.
wanted to be an actress, but that was not negotiable. So the next best thing is to be a visual artist. But then later on, you see you're being led to it, and
Mhm.
something in you would trust it. So
Mm.
you just give yourself to it because it's trustworthy. I
Yeah.
mean, you can feel it's trustworthy.
Mhm. Very philosophical again.
Yeah.
Kitikong?
for me, I don't know that I'm an artist or not. You know,
I
I'm
think
just
that's the
feel,
best answer.
yeah, I'm just feel enjoy to do the
Yeah.
thing that I'm
Mhm.
happy with all the time. And then I think like the artist should be a word that people call us, not
Yeah,
we set our name
exactly.
as an artist. Yeah.
Mm, sure.
Okay. Yi Ki Lim has further comments for Juhari, um, recommending that you should consider to choose Heritage House Gopeng Museum for your collection. I'm not exactly sure what he was referring
He
to.
is from Malaysia.
Yes, I think he's an old friend of yours, schoolmate, primary school.
Oh, my
Oh,
schoolmate. Yeah, yeah.
Yuki Lim.
Because
Mm,
oh, Lim Yuki. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
He's
Yes, Lim.
a engineering consultant.
Ah, okay. Then
Yeah, he's an
maybe he should.
engineering consultant, and he travels everywhere. And his permanent house is at the airport and the airplane.
Mm, okay. I think it's good to close. It's almost 4 o'clock. It's good to close with this question.
Okay.
Coming from Benitez Jonathan or Jonathan Benitez. It's addressed to Ambi, but I would probably ask Juhari and Kitikong also to say to answer this for your respective context. What is the present status of printmaking in your respective countries right now? Um, Sorry, even before COVID, or so maybe let's do before COVID. What was the status of printmaking?
Who answers first? Me?
Yeah, Ambi.
Yeah, before COVID, things were going on. We continue the workshops. There's interest, and it's alive. It's alive.
Mm-hmm. And right
It's
now,
right now it's still alive, but
it is,
working in
yeah.
a different way. Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
we just
mm-mm.
finished portfolio for CCP. It can be more challenging, but if you open your eyes more, you will see that there's also some new things that you discover about
Yes.
being in this kind of situation.
Mhm.
So it is alive and it's very exciting because after parang you want to look forward was there be more after the pandemic because many more people got interested in it during the pandemic. So it's exciting.
Yeah, like we're all taking advantage of everyone at home, so we give them all these information. I think it's the same with us
Like,
in the
yeah.
museum. Kitikong?
Yeah, I think like a printmaking in Thailand is still move on, but they just like some difficulty for the process of doing it. But I'm sure like it's just like taking a break, but they will coming back for sure.
Yeah. And Juhari?
Actually, when I work in my studio, I'm just like working in a cave, you know. I don't know
You're like a
what
monk.
exactly, you know, what is happening outside.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're in a very ideal, an idyllic situation.
yeah, very idyllic, yeah. And
Yeah.
in fact, you know, during the pandemic, I hardly see my neighbor because
And
they are
that's
far
good.
away from me, you know. And I didn't go to the supermarket, you know, I just stay in my studios. And this is a kind of bless, you know, that makes me continue working. And Ambie very, very familiar with my studios. And she knows how we work in that place. Yeah.
Okay, another question before I read one of the some of the other comments from Maria Giona. I love all the presentations, so thank you for attending. And my question is, how do you see the intersection and overlap of NFTs and blockchain technology in the tradition and economy of printmaking? Um, I think I'm not sure if there was one image in Kitikong or Juhari's material that
Yeah.
had
Come in
an
Lechai was
artist.
the
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
so
using
he
NFTs,
started to
no?
get like
So,
in the prints. Actually,
mhm,
I've been studying NFT for
mhm,
almost like 2 years about that, but I haven't done anything about
mhm,
NFT yet.
mhm.
And
But you're considering, I mean, exploring that path. It's
not
something
not yet, but I
not
try
yet.
to like get more
Understand.
information, understanding a lot more about that. But somehow, for my understanding right now, is NFT is sort of like parallel with printmaking. Like either like anything about like physical work, NFT is on the digital world.
Yes.
So whatever you are famous on this world, you jump into NFT, it doesn't mean like you're famous there. So I
Yeah.
kind of start another line out of that. And hardly to say like it's gonna be effect onto the way of like we doing or you know whatever, but mainly like everything is all about like trading in terms of like NFT right now.
Yep.
Or from my understanding, yeah, I think like hard, yeah, still hard to judge or
To
to say.
connect it with,
Yeah,
with
exactly.
your practice as a
Yeah,
printmaker.
right.
Ambie, any thoughts on this?
Well, actually, I'm more the analog type. So digital does not really allure me in any way.
And
Call
it
me
doesn't
laid
have
back,
anything
but
to
I
do with
love
age.
anything tactile. I love it has nothing to do with age. It's
Nothing to
just
do with
a
age.
kind of like affinity to the old. I really love the old. So
To materiality, no?
materiality, tactility, and being in the presence of getting your hands dirty. And so this world of the computer world and technology is remote to me. So I cannot answer the question.
And
I think
Juhari?
the technology is becoming and making the line blur and blur and blur. For example, like photography. When I was very, very young, when we wanted to learn photography, everyone has to make their own camera. Imagine, Kitikong, you have to make your own pinhole camera. You cannot buy your camera. Right? And then you have to take pictures. And then with a very old seagull camera, and the film is only 120 at that time, you know. 12 exposure made in China, very old camera. And when you take photograph, they have no automatic. It's all the shutter speed together. You have to be very, very sensitive to the light, you know. So you have to adjust your own shutter speed. You have to adjust your own aperture. If you make wrong decision, everything go dark. Yeah, goes dark. And then after that, you have to develop your films, yeah, in a dark room, very, very dark, you know. And then you have to develop your film and you have to print them. You have to print them, and the silver paper is very, very expensive, and you can't afford to make mistake. So the process of taking the pictures, the process of to develop the films, the process of the printing the films was all done in the lab. So that is part and parcel of good photography. Yeah, good photography. Then you only talk about the aesthetic, yeah, about the composition after you successfully printed the photography, the photo, yeah. But nowadays, I have my handphone. I can take as much as I like, and anybody can do it. So now, actually, technology is making everything becoming blur and blur until we cannot decide which one actually is the truth. That's how I feel. So I agree with Ambie. You know, you can dirty your hands, you can sweat, you know, doing the grinding, cutting, everything, and finally you exactly know this is the truth.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Okay,
And
thank you for that.
you know, some scholars, they call me primitive artist because I'm still using. Yeah, and to me it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter because even a lot of us is still using emoji. Emoji is a very primitive approach of communicating to one another. Yeah, even tag. The word tag actually come from a very primitive culture. So
it
doesn't bother. Well, you know, whatever you call, you know, whatever they call you, we stick to the idea of doing something, spending something something that benefit to the community, like what you have done, Kitikong, yeah, in your studios. I think that is very, very exciting, whereby I never heard before a musician making prints and a filmmaker making prints. No, this is something very exciting. Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Yeah, I think all your ideas, the three of you know, are just gave us more reason to have a third panel, a third session, maybe next year. This may be an ongoing series because if it's expanding, there's always something new. No, so thank you. There are two other comments from Gerard. So appreciating the interest and the passion that everyone has expressed, no, during this panel discussion. Yes, Ambie.
Yeah, I also want to thank you, Boots, for, you know, like organizing this and, you know, expanding the idea of printmaking, bringing us together, different countries represented, and, you know, all the support also of Ateneo Art Gallery. I mean,
Yeah,
Ateneo
I think
Art Museum.
we
So,
can. This is also one way for us to support the artists, the communities, not only by through art collections or exhibits, and we're also taking advantage of the current situation, and we get to reach more audiences now, and hopefully we get to invite your friend from New York.
yeah, for what?
Let's work on that. Maybe next year,
Possibly.
sometime in February. That's the Arts Month.
Right.
We Ateneo Art Gallery is quite passionate also with printmaking, considering
That's
that
it. Yeah.
we
You
have
have a good
a
collection.
good collection, starting from the donation of Fernando Sobel. Ambie knows is familiar
Mm.
with that collection. I don't want to brag, but we have one Rembrandt. I just so
Ah,
and a Delacroix. So these all came from
And more,
the
and
donor,
more.
no? The donor that led to the creation of our University Art Museum, and we are also happy that we are all getting more new more donations of prints, no. So we look forward to welcoming all of you and also our guests, attendees, listeners in this session. And lastly, I'd like to read Angela Silva's message. My personal gratitude to all the speakers and to AAG. We're happy to do this, for sharing extended printmaking II with Limbag Kamay Contemporary Print Fair. This is just the start in the Philippines, and I thank you for inspiring us. And thank you also from Connie Ledrido. So I think this is as we said, no, the community. It's all about creating a community or communities, no, and perhaps I cannot commit to a specific schedule, but I would like to explore the possibility of um, mounting an exhibition of your works and your colleagues' work, something that we could manage, no, and then host in our museum, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time. Let's hopefully we can work on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thank you again, Juhari,
Thank,
Ambie,
Yeah.
and Kitikong.
thank
Welcome.
you,
Thank you.
Boo. Thank you,
Finally,
Juhari. Thank you,
I got to
Abby.
meet you.
Thank you, Kitikong. Thank you, Johari and Boots.
Yeah,
Thank you
Ambie.
for all.
Thank you, Kitikong. Yeah.
Sorry, there's an additional question. Gerard, the museum is still closed. But when we are available, we are allowed to open our doors. Yes, we can show you some of the prints that we have that are in storage right now. But there are also a number on exhibit. Okay, so with that, we end this expanded printmaking 2 session. And I would also like to congratulate the organizers of Limbag Kamay, Contemporary Printmaking Art Fair, no, Print Art Fair. I think this is the first, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last. We look forward to more of these endeavors, no, specific to printmaking especially. So thank you and good afternoon.